I've seen it, you've seen it, and I must say, as much as I love this movie, I am so glad that all the characters died, because if not, I'm sure we'd be seeing Scarface 2, A New Legacy, in like a couple of years with that one person who lived. But no, everyone dies. Alright, so Scarface, the 1983 crime epic. This movie was, and still is, definitely one of the greatest projects that Hollywood has ever made, like, in history. Now, before I start the video, I had not seen Scarface in a really long time, like a really, really long time. I just saw it right now, and I gotta say, it was like watching it again for the first time, because I didn't remember anything from the first time that I saw it other than that scene.
Do you want to play rough? Okay. Uno. Say hello to my little friend!
That was it. I must say, I am thrilled. Wow, this movie is so utterly amazing. So Tony Montana is a Cuban political refugee that escapes from the tyranny of Fidel Castro in the late 80s and makes his way to America at his shot at the American dream. When he arrives in America, he's interrogated by customs and he is deemed not worthy enough to be a part of the American dream. So they take him to, I hate saying the word concentration camps, but so basically, Tony Montana is in that camp, and then he is offered the opportunity to get a green card and get a steady job if he kills one guy. So they start working for this guy, Frank Lopez, this like really well-established drug dealer in the Miami drug trade. Tony turns on Frank, he dies, and eventually we get what is Tony Montana, what we know today, the Scarface. And that's to say how much this movie may have inspired future films that really belong in this crime, late 80s, early 90s genre, like Casino, like Heat, like The Godfather 1, 2, 3. It definitely had a big impact on Hollywood and obviously on Al Pacino. I mean, Al Pacino as Scarface is one of the most recognized performances of the 21st century. Al Pacino as Scarface, you get Keanu Reeves as Neo, Leonardo DiCaprio, Titanic, Robert Pattinson, Twilight. Not to say that Twilight is up there, but you get my point. The score was also really amazing. I'm not entirely sure what songs were adapted for this screenplay necessarily, but the score that was designed for the movie I thought was really good. The moments that I loved the most was when somebody is doing something that Tony doesn't like and he stares him down and he gives that same Kill Bill, esque music score. Another part I really dug was the timing. I mean, this movie is 2 hours and 50 minutes long. It never feels like that. It never feels like a scene drags. You never have a story point where you feel that it's long or that it's boring or that it doesn't keep you engaged. It keeps you engaged from beginning to end. I thought that was spectacular. The tone and the timing of the movie is really, really amazing. Also, this movie does a wonderful job with the characters, not just with Al Pacino, but with Manny, with Omar, with Lopez. You cannot trust a soul that you see on screen. I think the movie did a really wonderful job at doing that, at conveying how in this world you cannot trust anybody. And I feel like that's sometimes where movies in this own genre fail, because you see characters on screen and you trust them because you see them throughout. You know their story, but even though you know they're assholes, you still trust them. In this movie, that wasn't the case. In this movie, you see someone on screen, they do some shady shit, and you say, hey, you know what? I don't trust this person, even if I know what they're going through in relation to what other characters know. So fantastic. That was a good job, movie. But the arc that I was most interested in was Elvira. Her arc going from being Frank's wife to being Tony's wife is really compelling. I mean, you see what living with these people really does to her and what this environment is doing to her. It's decaying her from the inside. From the moment you meet her, you can tell she's not the happiest person, but Frank at least is a little bit more humane than Tony. So then when she's with Tony, she gets skinnier, she gets more pale, she's just so expressionless and depressed. She does cocaine just constantly, she doesn't eat. And it's just really impactful to see that journey of being, I guess, in too deep, not being able to get out, There's a point where you're just somebody's wife, and that was really interesting to explore. And I did like the fact that at one point she says, you know what, fuck you, I'm leaving. Now, as far as Al Pacino's character, I love how this movie really explores through Al Pacino's character, how our own lack of self-awareness can sometimes be our biggest villain, our biggest deteriorating factor. But sometimes our own very lack of self-awareness is what prevents us from seeing the damage that we are doing to the people around us. And eventually you end up alone. I love that. I love how this movie portrayed that. Now, speaking of Manny, wow. my jaw was in the floor. His brother-in-law from just 24 hours ago. But I still feel like there should have been a little bit of more time exploring what that did to him mentally, because right after he kills Manny, he returns home and then he's attacked immediately. And as he's being attacked, before he's aware of it, he comes to terms with the fact that he just killed what would be like a brother to him and was his brother-in-law. I mean, given he didn't know that, but he starts to come to terms with that and really reflect on the consequences of what he just did. And then he's immediately cut off because, well, we have to have the scene. Would that have made the movie drag a little long? I don't know, but I feel like it would have definitely put that cherry on top to Al Pacino's character, because this is the first time in the movie that we see any kind of compassion towards anybody, really. But then the scene happens. That's right, the most famous scene in 21st century cinema. Definitely love that scene. It was definitely a moment, and I don't think anything that I could say would do it justice. I mean, this movie is everything. This movie is iconic. This movie is well recognized. One of the most famous films of the 21st century. What can you say? And it earns nothing less than a 9 out of 10. So Scarface, have you seen it? Of course you have, but have you seen it in the last 12 months? If you have not, go to Amazon Prime and rent it. It's like $3 for Ultra HD. Go rent it, go watch Scarface, because I guarantee you're gonna have a good time, just like I did. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you did like it, make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe, and ring the bell, just so you're notified every time we do upload a new video. Next week, we're gonna have something really special for you guys, so make sure to stay tuned. Follow my social media. I'll leave the links down below. Thank you so much for watching once again, and we'll see you on the next one. So Scarface 2, a new...